This is a self-help classic telling the story of a fictional lawyer named Julian Mantle who sold his mansion and his Ferrari to study the 7 virtues of the sages of Savannah and the Himalayan mountains. Hi friends, it's me, Walida Cherie, and today I want to give you guys a book summary on the book, The Monk That Sold His Ferrari. Now this story is not your ordinary oh, riches are bad type of story. In fact, it's the opposite. So I want to give you a little backstory about Julian. So Julian was a very distinguished lawyer. He was one of the best lawyers ever around. And he was pretty good at what he did. He won every single case. But the thing is, Julian worked really, really hard. He worked about 18 hours a day. He couldn't say no to not taking on cases, so he was always working. He would always say he was going to take a vacation, but he never did because work was always at the forefront of his mind. He believed the more he worked and the more riches he made, that's what made him successful. And so he did that for many, many years. He was not your typical lawyer though, because he had things that your typical lawyer doesn't have. He had mansions, a private jet, a private island, and of course his Ferrari. He was only 53, but most would have described him as looking about close to his 80s. And so that was a pretty bad quality that Julian had, is that he was so youthful on the inside, it appeared at the beginning. But as time went on, his fire started to go out and his physical appearance started to fade. He became overweight and he had lots of wrinkles. He lost his sense of purpose. He used to be really on fire, when in every case, to then dragging on cases, just saying a lot of things that just didn't really make sense. He had a failed marriage and a broken relationship with his father, and he believed that being rich and successful as a lawyer was his purpose in life. Well, one day Julian was doing his typical, stand before the judge, presenting his case, and he stopped and he grabbed his chest and he fell and passed out. Next thing you know, he was being rushed to the hospital. Inside of the hospital, he was diagnosed with having a heart attack. And so Julian was faced with the choice of either giving up being a lawyer or die. Well, Julian decided that it was about time. He's fulfilled what he thought, all the things he can do as a lawyer, and he thought he had more life that he needed to achieve. He no longer was thinking that the materialistic things brought him happiness, so he was on the search for happiness. So he decided to give up his practice and sell all of his materialistic possessions, leaving him only a suitcase. Well, Julian had a protege or a mentee that he had in his office named John. And so when he left, John was notified like everybody else. He wasn't given a personalized goodbye from Julian saying that he was leaving the practice. And so for months and years even, John wondered what happened to Julian. What was he like? Where is he? What is he doing with himself? All he knew, like everybody else, is that he moved to India. And so it was one day that John was in his office and he was just like Julian was previously, frantically trying to get cases together, working really hard, working really long hours. And this particular day, he just had enough. He was defeated. And so he was about to go home and his secretary tells him he had a visitor. John didn't want to see this visitor because John was exhausted. All he wanted to do at this point was to go home. But his secretary persisted and she said, "Hey, I really think that you need to talk to this guy because he's not going to leave." Finally, John gives in and he finds this slim looking guy with very youthful qualities, and he just seemed fully radiated with happiness. He had a persona about him that John just couldn't understand. It was a piece that he had never seen before. Yet John had no idea who this guy was that he was looking at. Finally, this mysterious man reveals himself, and it happens to be his best friend, also his mentor, Julian Mantle. And John's blown away because he's like, "Dude, how did this happen? It hasn't been that long, has it? How are you looking younger than you were from the last time I saw you? And you used to be overweight. How are you overweight and now you're slim and you're healthy? And you used to always look worried and you had fear, and now you look happy and peaceful. What is the secret?" So Julian was kind of glad he asked, because that was the whole point of Julian's visit in the first place. So Julian tells him that he went on a journey to India to find out who he was and what his purpose was in life. And what he discovered is that he had to basically serve people. That was his primary purpose in life, was to serve people. But before he got to that point, He mentioned about how he was on the quest and he was so hungry to find his purpose that he was willing to do whatever it took. And so when he got to India, they told him about these monks that lived in the Himalayan mountains at the peak of the mountain where most people could never go. And they said it was almost impossible to get there, but Julian, being determined and being a really good lawyer, persisted and with tenacity said, I am going to go up the top of that mountain to learn the wisdom of these monks. So, of course, he set out to do that. It took him about 7 days. He nearly died, but finally he reached the top of the mountain and he met the great sages of Savannah, which are the monks in the Himalayan mountain. Now, the characteristics that he observed about these monks are that they possessed a childlike quality. They didn't seem to be carrying the burden of adulthood with them. They just seemed to be innocent, and they radiated lots of happiness, that you didn't see worry lines, you didn't see fear, you just felt happiness radiating from them. They were busy, but not busy like he was used to being busy, working 18-hour days on cases, stressing out his body and breaking down his mind. He found that they engaged in daily activities that were productive. He also noticed their physical appearance. They had no wrinkles, they had no gray hair, and again, they looked really, really young. But the thing is, these monks were on average 100 years old, and he couldn't understand how could these monks who are over 100 years old look so young. And one of the secrets they told him was their daily activities. And one of their primary daily activities was to eat fresh fruits and exotic vegetables every single day. They recommended eating a vegetarian diet. So they agreed, because now Julian's at the top of the mountain. He's asking them to teach him their ways. They agreed to do so under one condition. They told him that whatever they teach him, he needed to go and tell others, because he, unlike many people, is the only person that was able to get to that peak mountain and actually get to talk to them. And because they lived there and they never come off of the mountain, they needed a messenger to give this knowledge that they were going to give to him to other people. And so Julian agreed. He agreed that this was a great opportunity. Maybe this could be his purpose, and helping others by learning what he learned and sharing it with them. They told him that this knowledge would give people hope, and it would give them the tools that they needed to fulfill their dreams. But they gave him a parable, it didn't make sense to Julian. And it mentioned something about a garden and a lighthouse and a sumo wrestler, wire underwear, golden watch, fragrant rose, and pack of diamonds, all in one little story. And so Julian is so confused, because he's like, how in the world does this make sense to anybody? But, he said that he would be open-minded, and whatever they taught him, he would learn it and teach to others. The first rule is the garden. So they gave him the garden scenario. What the garden represented is ruling your mind. They told him whatever he put inside of his mind, he will become more of that. So if he put positivity inside of his mind, then like a garden, positivity will grow. Unlike, negative thoughts. If you put negative thoughts inside of the mind, negative thoughts will grow. So if you think about a garden, if you put good seeds inside of a garden, it will grow good fruits and good vegetables. But if you put trash inside of a garden, then nothing will grow. It would just stay dead. And in fact, whatever life was there, it would kill it. So you want to make sure that you take control of your thoughts and you know what you're putting inside of your mind, because your thoughts become your feelings and your feelings become your reality. Always seek the positive in every situation, and always know that pain could be a wonderful teacher. Everything is created twice. First in the mind and then in reality. If you look around, every single thing that you see, touch, smell, taste, and hear, it all started off with a thought and it became a reality. So that was the first lesson. The second lesson was the lighthouse that was inside of the story. And the lighthouse represents having a purpose. So you need to have clearly defined goals. And what he recommended is that know where you want to go in life. So you really need to take time to know who you are and where you need to go in life. He suggested maybe creating a vision board, cutting out pictures and knowing exactly where it is that you want to go and visualizing that every single day. You need to write every single step to the goal that you want to achieve, so that way you can make small increments and get you towards your big goal. but you must commit to your goals and you must find accountability by telling others. The third virtue is the sumo wrestler, also known as the kaizen. Now, the kaizen means improvement, constant improvement. This means that every single day you need to find a way for you to get better and better. In order to become better, though, you have to know that hard times need to be overcome, and the only way to overcome hard times is to have courage. Courage to face your fears head on. The fourth virtue is thin wire underwear, which represents discipline. So the sumo wrestler had on thin wire underwear. Now, what this represented was you need to be very disciplined on what you do. And this is a very necessary ingredient to get you anything you want in life. If you want more money, you have to be more disciplined with your spending, and discipline will learn how to make more of it. If you want to lose, maintain, or gain weight, you have to be disciplined with your exercise and your diet and your sleep and your water intake. If you want to raise productive kids, you have to be disciplined and disciplining them when they do things wrong to show them the correct way to do things. Everything you do requires discipline, and that is the fourth virtue. The fifth virtue is the golden watch. And so he found this golden watch inside of this garden with everything else. And the golden watch represents value your time. A well-organized person has a well-organized mind. Each of us are given the same 24 hours a day. And a lot of people like to say, if I only had more time. No, it's not if you have more time, it's how are you utilizing your time. Each person, whether poor or rich, are all given the same 24 hours. It's how you use that time. Make sure you schedule your hardest and most important thing first. When you first wake up, make sure you tackle that first so that you can make sure that that's done and is out of the way. Because you'll notice that your most important task, if you get that done, everything else isn't really relevant to what you need in order to be successful. And then you need to review and prioritize your day to know exactly where you're spending your time each and every day. The sixth virtue is fragrant rose, and this represents helping others. What you can do is you need to start to experience the feeling of happiness by helping other people. You can give to other charities and nurture your relationships with family and friends. The more you help other people, the more happy you will become. And so it is very important that you keep this part of your life as an everyday discipline to make sure that you maintain happiness. Because if you treat others good, the same thing will happen to you. And the last virtue, the seventh virtue, is the path of diamonds. Embrace the present. Live and enjoy each moment as it comes. Don't be so fixated on the past or the future, because if you do that, you're going to miss out what's in the present. My challenge to you is to take every single day, live every single day, one day at a time, and cherish the moments. Look at the sun, watch the birds, watch the bees, watch your kids grow, hug your spouses. Take each day and embrace the present, because as you know, tomorrow is not promised to any of us. So it's very important that you embrace that. So those are the seven virtues that Julian was taught by the Himalayan monks, that he taught to John, and that I've learned, and now I'm teaching it to you. So make sure you go and tell these seven virtues to everyone you know. So that's the book review, and that's all I have. And until then, I'll see you guys later.